Well, first of all, congratulations on the Soul Train Award for Best Gospel Inspirational Performance.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And you and Ty Tribbett, have you had any gotten competitive about who's going to win the award?
No, we have not. You know, that's so funny. I'm going to have to call and talk to him after we do this interview and say, who's going to win? Who's going to win? I love him like a brother. I really do.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Tasha Cobbs, for being with us on the Black Gospel blog. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me today.
Well, I'm sure that with Break Every Chain and all the award nominations and accolades, people are probably calling you an overnight success, but that's not true, is it?
Not at all. Not at all. We're going to clear that up today, huh?
We are. Yes, we are. So take us back to Jessup, Georgia.
Okay.
And I know that's where you're from. Where in Georgia is that?
Jessup, Georgia is on the coast. It's about an hour from Savannah, Georgia, and it's an hour from Jacksonville, Florida. So it's just right in the middle, right there on the coast. It's a beautiful place. It's just really, really small. Really small. I love my hometown. And that's Jessup. A lot of people say Jessup, but it's actually Jessup. And I grew up there in the house of a pastor. My father's a bishop. So I've been in church all of my life, singing all of my life. I came from a singing family. Honestly, all of my aunts and all of their kids sing. So we were kind of like the Jacksons. We would gather together at my grandmother's house, make up songs, write songs, 4- and 5-part harmonies. We were the kids you had to sing if you grew up in this family. So that's the history of. And then on my dad's side, most of my cousins on that side, they play instruments. So I was just surrounded by music all of my life.
Wow. Did you always want to do music as a career, or did you have other aspirations for when you grew up?
You know, it's so funny. I really thought I was going to go to Clark Atlanta University, which I did, and become a teacher. I wanted to be a math teacher. Because the truth is that I wasn't the lead singer in our family. I have, cousins that could sing rings around me. So I was always in the background, maybe singing on the background mic in the choir. Every now and then they would call on me to lead a song, but I wasn't the one out on the lead mic. I really didn't lead out front until I was about 15. I love this story. It was just kind of interesting. I was a choir director over a community choir that me and some of my friends started. It was just a bunch of teenagers. And one of the lead singers for the song, Now Behold the Lamb, he got in a wreck and couldn't make it. So everybody was pointing at me like, Tasha, you're going to have to sing the song. And I'm thinking, I don't lead. I sing on the background or I direct the choir. But needless to say, that night I sang Now Behold the Lamb, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. People, the same kind of effect we have now when I minister. People were crying and on their knees and just laying out before God. And at that moment, I'm looking at my parents like, oh, this is something new. So they just kind of, we started to groom that anointing and that gifting that I had. And that's really where it all started. That night, I was 15 years old, and it's almost like God revealed to me, I have something else for your life.
Wow. You're also a talented songwriter. So tell us about how you have become a songwriter as well.
That's wonderful. Songwriting is one of my strong passions. I mean, it's right up there with singing. I started to write maybe around the age of 19, 20. I used to do poetry and stuff when I was younger. And then you find that writing is writing. And so you will pull out some of the poems and realize, hey, this is a song. So I did that one night. I was about 19 years old. I wrote my first song. And from that moment on, I've been writing. And of course, it grows. It's a process. You learn more about what it is that you do. And I think throughout that process, my pastor, William Murphy, has played a major part in kind of pulling the writer out of me. When I moved to, because it's one of those sporadic things. Our church is like really sporadic when it comes to worship. So a lot of the songs that you'll hear on my album, I wrote them in the midst of our worship services. Like songs like Happy and Smile. It was in the midst of a moment in church where the song just comes to my spirit. So I wouldn't consider myself one of those songwriters where you sit down and you have a writing session and it's formatted. My songs really come in a spiritual manner. I have to say it like that. But I enjoy it. It's just absolutely amazing. And, to write a song, the song that I wrote, Smile, Jonathan Nelson recorded it. And to see, people all over the world just join in and sing that song is like an overwhelming experience. God, you gave me that song and it's blessing people's lives.
Well, and that's, it might have actually been Jonathan who said that to me, because we were talking about praise and worship, and particularly praise and worship in the Southeast, and he was basically saying, Tasha Cobbs has been out there writing songs and doing her thing before anyone knew who she was, but she was active.
Wow, yeah. Absolutely. I've been, just doing, one of my favorite scriptures is that God rewards the faithful. And I believe everything happens in God's timing. So what I did was I gave my all. Even when I was serving my dad, I worked as his youth pastor, and, whatever he needed me to be, I, played the organ a little bit. Whatever daddy needed, I did it. And I was faithful at that. Even though, all of my life, people had ministered to me saying there's something special about you. You're called to the world. I didn't let that blow my head up. Mm-hmm. I remained in the moment. And, this is where God has me right now. Even though I know there's another anointing on my life, he has me serving my Father right now. And I did the same thing when I moved to Atlanta in my church. And that's where I met Jonathan, serving at my ministries. And then that's how he heard the song Smile. Actually, we sang it one year at the Full Gospel Baptist Church Conference. And he was like, who is this girl? Who wrote this song? And that's where I met Jonathan that year. But I was really just serving in ministry, and God rewards the faithful. That's one of my favorite scriptures. And I teach that to all of the people that I mentor. You have to be consistent where you are. And don't try to kick doors down. Wait on God to open the door.
Well, and this question really comes from gospel music collectors out there. Now, did you record anything before your new album?
Yes, absolutely. I recorded an album, an independent project called Smile in 2010. I did it here live in Atlanta, and that album did really, really well. It's actually how I connected with Motown Gospel. They had that album. Somebody pitched it to them, and then Myron Butler asked me to come and do a collaboration on a song with him, and he and I happened to be there. And they basically put two and two together. Hey, this is the same girl from the album that we have. And after that, they reached out to me, and we created a relationship for about maybe a few months, maybe about 6 months, and they signed me to their label. It's been an awesome experience.
Well, I asked this question to Ty Tribbett, and I'll ask it to you as well. I mean, you came in as EMI Gospel, and suddenly you're on Motown Gospel. What was it like to know when you're going to be suddenly on an iconic label?
That was such an amazing experience. They had a showcase that we did in L.A. to basically announce the switch to Motown Gospel, and everybody was so warm and welcoming. They told us what the changes would be about, and I believe all of the artists are really excited about this new, the new Motown. Just to say Motown is just legendary, So even that just goes into play with the overwhelming experience that I'm living in right now. Just to say I'm with Motown Gospel, that I'm a part of the team, and I'm on the label with people like Ty Tribbett and Sherry Moffitt and Anita Wilson. It's just absolutely amazing.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the first time you heard Break Every Chain, and did you have any inkling that it would become the hit that it has become?
Absolutely. You know what? I tell people, I've done a few interviews in the past week or so, and that question has been really popular. The first time I heard that song, it was on an album by Jesus Culture. And one of the most amazing things to me is that the song was written by a 19-year-old. So I want to stop right here and encourage all of the young people, if you have a gift, maximize that gift. He was 19 years old, and he wrote the song Break Every Chain, and Jesus Culture picked it up. Well, the first time that I heard it, I played the song all night long. It ministered to me, and I always tell people I understand the effect that it has on everybody else, because I experienced it first. Like, the first time I heard it, the chains were broken off of my life. And I believe that's why I can minister it so effectively, because I've experienced the chain-breaking effect that the song has on people. But that night when I was listening to it, I felt God, God's presence saying to me, I want you to release this song to the world. So even when my first meeting with Bashawn Mitchell, who produced my album, one of the songs that I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I said, we have to do Break Every Chain. Now, there were some other songs that were up in the air, but this one was solid. We have to do Break Every Chain.
Wow, and seeing how well it's done, I believe it's likely to be considered one of the 100 most influential gospel recordings of all time because of its reach. Its reach. Yeah. It's been on not just the gospel charts, but on the adult contemporary charts, and
Yeah.
Well, how has life changed for you since Grace?
Woo! It is, the travel has increased a bit, and it's about finding balance. So I believe right now in this season, I'm finding balance. You know, every transition in life, you have to find the balance, and I believe that's where I am. I travel every week, maybe 3 or 4 days a week. I'm hardly ever home. I tell everybody home is like a foreign place to me now. But I'm enjoying every minute of it, every minute of traveling around the world, singing. I have to make sure that I take care of my, my vocals so that I'm always up to par when it comes to ministering, when people have me to come in. So those are some things I make sure I go to my voice therapist and all that to keep myself healthy. I have to make sure I keep my eating habits right so that I'm healthy enough to travel all over the world. So it's things like that. You have to find the balance of your life again when you have major transitions.
Well, and what is next for you? Any albums, new releases, anything coming up?
We are working on some things and definitely preparing and writing songs for the new album, probably at the end of next year. We're preparing to do that. So I've been working with some songwriters. Some of my favorite songwriters, I've been asking around, you have some songs for me? And I have some people that I am excited to work with. Got some stuff maybe coming up with PJ Morton. I love him. Mm-hmm. So we're working with some people that I am excited about, and I believe it's going to be really effective. Just to kind of bounce off Grace, we're going to the next place, the next level. With the next album.
Great. Well, the final question is, do you get back to Jessup, Georgia, and back to the original church?
There are sometimes, at least twice a year, I make sure I do something major at my dad's church. And you never forget your foundation. So I go home. Last year I did something funny. I called him on like a Monday, and I told him, Daddy, I'm coming to your church Wednesday to do a major concert. Call everybody. Put it on Facebook. And within 2 days, they packed the church out. We went back home, and he's like, girl, you are crazy. But, I do stuff like that with him just to let them know you never forget home. I know, this is where my foundation is. I love you guys. And, a lot of times they say there's a scripture that says a prophet is without honor in his own home. I do not have that testimony. When I go home, everybody embraces me and they encourage me and support and love on me, and it's just amazing experience. So yeah, I get back to Jessup at least, 3 or 4 times a year to just kind of embrace my family and love on them. And then they come to Atlanta to see me often.
Oh, sure, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Tasha Cobbs, thank you for spending time at the Black Gospel Blog.